Welcome to the New Normal Hybrid Working webinar. And yeah, let's get straight into it. So everyone knows what hybrid working is now. Part of our daily lives. It's something that we're going to be doing going forward. Something that we've been doing for quite a while now. It's really key to make sure that we can stay productive, we can work hard, and we can produce great results by working in the office and at home. And it's really key, especially with the cost of living crisis. Being able to work at home and work in the office can save on office costs, rent, price of electricity, heating in offices, as well potentially at home if you are going back to the office. Both of those things have great benefits, but staying productive and making sure that we can work productively and work hybridly is really important going forward. And I think if you're not offering it as a business or a charity, it's going to really cost you in terms of your employee who's available to you. And as you see here, a recent survey found 85% of employees wanted to use a hybrid working approach. So it's really important. I think it's going to be really important going forward as well. So obviously, the absolute key to hybrid working is going to be working and migrating to the cloud. I imagine a lot of you are taking advantage of the cloud, especially for non-profits. The pricing, the value for money is huge. It's really, really key that if you're not using hybrid working and you are looking to, making sure the first step is to get all of your data, all of your information, email and everything into the cloud. There's obviously a lot of different cloud platforms out there, and we'll talk about those in a minute. The two key ones that we're going to focus on in today's webinar are the top two market leaders, and that is G Suite, Google Cloud, and Microsoft 365. Really, really important to choose the right platform though when you are going forward. And we've seen over the last few years, those mistakes can be costly if you end up choosing the wrong platform. Something either small that won't grow with the big business or the organization, or something too large that will cost too much money, be too difficult to maintain, and not provide everything that you need, or provide too much and that you're not using it, costing too much money. Again, choosing that right platform is really important. To say the two market share top leaders are Google G Suite and Microsoft 365, and they're definitely what we would recommend for non-profits. The choice between the two is very difficult, and we'll go into those in a little bit. But the key is here, I would say, from our own experience, is about user experience and your user training. Trying to make sure your users have got the correct level of training on either platform will make the decision a lot easier for you. If the majority of your staff, employees, volunteers, trustees are used to the Microsoft suite, then I would recommend 365. If they're used to the Google suite and that's the platform they've been using regularly, then look at that platform. Really is getting and making sure that platform and the users are used to that platform. That is the real key to making a success in moving to the cloud. So yeah, looking at demos, training, people who maybe aren't trained up on one platform, providing training to those prior to moving over is really important. The next big thing is scoping configuration. So really making sure that you've got a plan in place and you've scoped out what you want to do, how you want to achieve it. What's your end goal here? What are you trying to achieve? Making sure that is exactly right. Sorry about that. Change slides. Yeah, so making sure that's exactly right and getting that configuration 100%. If you don't know what you want, speak to the experts. Speak to people out there who have got experience. Speak to your peers, other people in other non-profits that are similar to yours, and speak to IT people. People who are using these platforms. And look at best practice. Again, time and time again, we see people who have set up a system or have had a system set up for them in a way that is not the most easy to use, not the most productive, or not the most secure. So really, really making sure that you've got that scope down in terms of security, training, and the end goals. Trying to make sure you've got the whole platform. This is what we want to achieve. This is our end goal, and either working with someone to achieve that or working with that yourselves. And then obviously the last part is obviously the data migration and moving everything over. How are you going to do that? How are you going to achieve that? Again, some will choose to work with a partner. Some can do it internally. When do you do it? Again, I think from our experience, and we've done hundreds of these migrations over the last 5-10 years, it's kind of a rip the band-aid off approach is probably the best approach. It might not sound the best way, but you've done everything correctly beforehand. You've chosen the right platform, done the demonstrations with the team, you've done training, scoped everything out. You just choose a dedicated weekend, ideally, and you get everything moved over, get everything set up, you set everyone's devices up, and then you go live, and that's absolutely key. And you get everyone moved over, but over that out of hours time, and they go live on the Monday, and hopefully you've done it correctly. You've done the training, you've done the scoping. It should be very little in terms of fallout and that kind of thing. So I definitely think doing a rip the band off approach is definitely the way to go. But obviously there are different approaches to that as well. Some people might migrate email first and then data, or portions of data at a go. Definitely, yeah, as long as you've got the scope right and you've planned it correctly, the team know what's going on, that's really the key to this. So talking about different platforms, we've got Microsoft 365, Dropbox, Google Workspace, Box, hosted desktop, and physical servers. Obviously, physical servers in the cloud thing, and hosted desktop again is something that's becoming less used, I would say, especially in the non-profit sector. It's an expensive solution unless you have dedicated software that requires a server-style environment. It really is kind of probably too expensive for most non-profits, and very little benefit. It's even very little benefit to most businesses. Where it is used and will be needed, if you do have a very specific piece of software, maybe a case management piece of software or something like that, that requires a cloud service. Sage, again, something like Sage generally requires a server which can be hosted in the cloud. We can help with that and minimize that by just using the key Sage users, using a hosted desktop maybe for the Sage service, or we can utilize Sage Cloud Service. But yeah, that's something else to think about. Really, hosted desktop, I would say, something to stay away from if you can, and look at the main key cloud providers in terms of not Google, their hybrid working models, which are the 365 and Google Workspace. The others, Box, Dropbox, AWS have one. There's others out there as well. We really haven't got the market share. Development really isn't as good in our opinion as those two platforms. So we'll look at G Suite first. G Suite is a fantastic platform. There's some real good benefits to G Suite. One of the key benefits is really lightweight. So you can use Google Chromebooks, which are very cheap, very easy to run. It all runs within the browser. It has some really good benefits of doing that. The downsides to that, I would say, are if your users are not trained and have not used Google products in the majority. If your users and your staff are trained in the Microsoft suite, they're using Microsoft Outlook, Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, transition to Google and G Suite is a lot more difficult. 100%, if your staff are using Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Drive, then great. Google is a really good solution. It has a great benefits in terms of, say, Chromebooks, all online. It's easy to use. It's very inexpensive, and it doesn't require lots of bolt-ons. It has got limitations, and I would say probably in terms of the suite of products, Docs versus Word, Sheets versus Excel, those kind of slides versus PowerPoint, they're not as easy to use and user-friendly as Microsoft, and they don't offer as many features, but they do have a lot of features now, and they are growing all the time. Hangouts as well is great. Hangouts is Google's version of Teams. But for me, 100% the decision is based on what do the majority of your staff use, and can you train them in Google prior to them moving over and making sure they're 100% up to speed, in which case Google's your suite. Another really important thing to take into consideration is trying not to mix and match. We really wouldn't recommend mixing Google G Suite using Microsoft Outlook, Microsoft Word, or vice versa, using Microsoft SharePoint, trying to access it all via the browser, via Google Mail or something like that. It's just not the best way to do it. Keep your Google with Google. So if you're going to use G Suite, stick to Google Suite, Google Docs, Google Apps, use it all within the Google ecosystem. Again, Chromebooks is a great way to do that as well. And if you're going to use Microsoft system, use Microsoft system, stick to Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, Microsoft SharePoint, OneDrive, Intune, those kind of things. Really important to try and keep the same. Same with Apple. Ideally, if you're going to use Apple, try and stick to all Apple if you can. It's difficult because their business offerings aren't as great, but those kind of things are really good. So we move on to SharePoint Online. Again, it's very similar to Google Suite in terms of what they can do. SharePoint offers some great functions in terms of collaboration. Again, the same as Google Online, and it offers collaboration within app. So you can collaborate within Excel, in PowerPoint, and offers some really good tools for collaboration. If you're not using SharePoint, if you're using the Microsoft suite of tools, again, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, SharePoint is the one to use. It's the one that's meant for team sharing. You have OneDrive for your own personal documents, your My Documents, um, but using SharePoint to collaborate, work together, and we'll go on to how they've really integrated that into Microsoft Teams as well. But it's definitely really good. It's got some great functionality. Haven't used that already? Get yourself a demo booked in. It's the Microsoft's offering basically of Google Suite or Google Drive. So yeah, as I say, they've really worked on this over the last few years with the growth of obviously hybrid working. And Microsoft now offer what's called like a team site within, and that can be built into Teams and into SharePoint. And it's like your own internal intranet, which you can have on the homepage of your Teams or the homepage of your Office login. And it allows you to share news, events, functions, documents, all of the things that you would like within the Microsoft Teams app or within the landing page of your SharePoint site. And it's really, really simple to use, really simple to set up, and it's easy to maintain, which is absolutely key. Being able to maintain these things and use them internally, have your own staff update them and edit them is really important. Definitely something worth looking at in the new communication platforms. Really, really good, and there's loads available to it. You can have videos, you have training portals, yeah, something definitely worth looking at as well. That leads us on quite nicely to communication. Obviously, again, during COVID, a lot of us did Zoom, WebEx, Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, all fantastic tools to communicate. Again, we're going to concentrate on the tools that are probably the top there. Are Google Meet, Teams, and Zoom. There's very little differences when you come down to it. I'll probably say Zoom is the most polished, but obviously Zoom doesn't link in with SharePoint, OneDrive, G Suite, those kind of things. So Zoom's obviously been one of the front runners originally, but the others, Teams and Google Meet, have really caught up over the last couple of years. So there is very little difference nowadays, and obviously Zoom would be an extra cost if you're already using G Suite and G Suite applications, or Microsoft 365 and Microsoft Teams. Those are included, whereas Zoom is obviously an extra cost for the full version. And the free versions aren't as good. They're not as good. They haven't got the functionality. So definitely, we would say if you're using Microsoft, again, stick with Microsoft. Using Google, stick with Google. But the others are available. All of them should offer the same sort of functionality. Meetings of up to 20 people is quite standard. Camera sharing, video sharing, screen sharing, all of those things. And then again, they all have another level where you can do things like webinars like today. I would say one of the real keys to this, though, and obviously we speak to a lot of people and have a lot of meetings over. We actually use Teams internally. Is having a decent headset and webcam. It really is hard to sort of understand someone when they're shouting into a laptop. They've got a lot of background noise, kids, dogs, wives, or even office background noise. We're back in the office. We might have 3 or 4 people in a room all shouting to their laptops. So really good to look at having the correct setup with the headset and webcam. The quality webcam, you don't want someone looking a little bit grainy. You can hardly see what they're doing, and the kind of the facial expressions. That's not the experience you want for your staff. So yeah, we put down to here some examples of ones that we'd recommend, but a lot of them are available on Amazon. Again, very cheap. Prices have come down. Logitech, Jabra, Microsoft, Plantronics, they all offer webcams and headset solutions. Definitely something worth looking at for your staff. They're doing a lot of meetings, a lot of or these Google Hangouts. So staying productive again is really important when we're doing this, and you might have already seen my productivity webinar. If you haven't, you can check that out. It's on our YouTube page. I'll just touch on a few points that are really important still to do with that. Desk setup, really important to have the correct desk setup. So comfortable seating, comfortable desk, correct height monitors, ideally monitor stands that are adjustable, chairs that are adjustable, all those kind of things. Obviously, that's difficult for people working at home, but it is something that's really, really important, and I think it makes your productivity a lot more. If you're sitting at a dining room table on a sofa, really, really not the best places to work, as we all know. And looking at dual screens, I know that not everyone has space for this, but if you can work across 2 screens, if you haven't tried this before, having 2 screens, absolutely really, really important and can make such a difference to your ability to work and provide, that maximizing that productivity. You're able to have your presentation on one screen, email on the other screen, have Tender on one screen, or a funding application on the other screen, and work across multiple documents on multiple screens, dragging things between the two. It really does help. If you haven't tried it before, please do try it. It's really easy to use, easy to set up. Most laptops, desktops now can all support it natively, no extra required. Again, monitors are very, very cheap, so looking at that as well. The final point would be docking stations. Again, we see a lot of people, obviously laptops, using one device is going to save you money, rather than having a device in the office and a device at home. So having that flexibility of a portable device, a workstation you can take with you is absolutely key, 100%. But being able to dock that in so that you've got a proper monitor, proper keyboard and mouse can just make your productivity so much better. A small screen on a laptop isn't ideal for working every day. So looking at that, and again, you can use those docking stations for your monitors. Most of them have come down. A lot of them are universal and have come down in price a lot over the last couple of years. So definitely taking regular breaks, minimizing distractions. Very difficult, but I would say we all need to work on that. Going out for a short 5-minute walk, taking a bit of fresh air, making a cup of tea, getting away from the desk sometimes really helps clear the mind. But also minimizing distractions is really important. So Microsoft has got a great feature built into Windows 10 and Windows 11 called Focus Assist. If you haven't seen that, have a look at that. Check it out on Google. In the bottom right hand corner, the little moon icon, I believe, and that allows you to set what notifications you're getting. So if you're working on an important document or in a meeting, you can set what's going to pop up all the time. Do you want your emails regularly popping up constantly? Definitely not if I'm running a webinar today. But having those, being able to turn those on and off and set rules for different times of day, or turning it on and off when you need it, it's really important. Focus, great tool. Have a look at that, Google that, or check that out in the bottom right hand corner. As you say, it's very easy to use. Just set things up as you need. The last tool I want to talk about was Microsoft Bookings. This is quite a new feature in Microsoft. But it's kind of like, you might have heard of Calendly. There's some other features out there, but this is now native to Microsoft, built into the 365 platform, and allows you to share a link so people can book in time with you. So if you have services or even internal meetings, rather than going back and forth offering Monday at 2 o'clock, Tuesday at 3 o'clock, that kind of thing, people can just click in, choose a time, and book in with you. You set the time, the meeting, so the length of the meeting, so whether that's 10 minutes, half an hour, 2 hours. People can you can set that up when you create the booking calendar, and they can also choose how long before and after, so that you can set your availability, and it all synchronizes with your day-to-day calendar. So it won't book you for times that you're not available. It won't book you outside of your core hours. You can set all those core hours. If you only work part-time, you can only set certain days. Really, really easy to use and set up. It means that you can share a link with someone and say, right, book a meeting with me via this link, and you can have it across multiple people as well. So if you have a team that people are doing, for instance, we do offer free consultations, and it's not just me, it's my whole team. So you can book it with any of us using the same link. It will choose whoever's available at the time. Again, it's something worth looking at, definitely worth considering, and we can offer you a free demo of that as well.